Bro, nobody will ever know. And we are live.
And we are alive.
Yo, what's good, bro?
What's good, man? Just rough night in Detroit basketball, but
Yeah,
you know,
not the best.
hey, is what it is. Just always appreciative that basketball's back in the first place. So
Yeah. Summertime was yo, look, man, we had some long days waiting for Pistons basketball to get here.
mhm.
Now it is here, bro, and we got some things that we got to talk about. Yo, the Pistons fall tonight to the Washington Wizards, 98 to 120. It looked like they were going to have an opportunity in the beginning of this game to be very competitive, like they vowed to be. And now I'm starting to lean more towards what Casey said. Hey, we're learning to compete. You know, this is our year to
Yep.
learn. But they did state no blowouts. You know, we're not gonna be out here getting getting blown out. Now that's it's a couple blowouts, to start the year.
Mhm.
Sean, I want to get your takeaway, man. I don't know if you want to go through some of the box score.
Yeah.
But I definitely want your takeaway on tonight and what you've kind of felt about this team after opening night.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think after opening night, the first thing I said after the next game is pretty much how I feel now. If game 1 was the showcase of Detroit's talent and their potential and the upside that they have, these last 3 games have been the showcasing of how far that they have to go. I think, for one, I think you're also seeing, how much guys, both from last year's team and in the rotation are being missed. I think someone
Mhm.
like Jeremy Grant was such a stable force on the defensive end. And, the question is who's going to be that number one defensive anchor? Well, I think so far the answer's been there hasn't been one, right? I think, we talked about how, Killian talked about how he wanted to be a defensive anchor this year. And I think he definitely wanted to be, but the problem is when Killian can't take care of the basketball or shoot the basketball, it's hard to stay on the court, right? I think the
Yep.
ultimate thing, I think as a whole, there's still a lot of flashes and a lot of really good things, right? Bojan Bogdanovic, 8 of 13 from the field, 25 points, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc, got hot early. Guys like Corey Joseph came off the bench, played really good basketball, dove for loose balls, played really high effort hoops. Jalen Duren at times, still makes really good plays, but at times also looks like he's an 18-year-old in his first few NBA games, right? Jaden
Yeah.
Ivey and Cade both, in my opinion, were both struggling from the offensive field. You look at Cade and Ivy both kind of scoring, Cade scored 18 points on 19 shots. Ivy scored, 11 on 10. Like that's just it's not efficient, right? So not saying that not saying that as like criticism. That's just the way it is, right? That's just how the game went.
I know
So
what it is. I
yeah,
like that, man.
yeah,
From
and
my no, go ahead, finish up,
no,
bro.
I was just gonna say, like, do I think things are doom and gloom? No, I
Mhm.
don't. Like, I think, I think there was a point, in that fourth quarter where the Pistons were still in this game. They got it to under 10 points. They did compete. I think ultimately, I think you saw the Pistons start to slip away in the fourth quarter, make some mistakes once the young guys came back in, just kind of slipped away a little bit. I know a lot of people tonight are gonna, I've already seen a lot of fire Casey's. I've already seen a lot of Cade's got to figure it out. Already seen a lot of, Killian's going to be in China, all sorts of stuff. But I think, it's important to remember this was the third game of Detroit's first road trip.
Whoa, Shane, one more time. One more time. Let me get some sound effects. Say that, please, one more time. What game is
You're
this?
right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. I didn't point that out enough. You're right. That's my bad. This is the fourth game of the NBA season. And specifically, I think you're also seeing, and this isn't excuses, this is just the way it is. I think you're seeing how much not only guys like last year from last year's team like Jeremy Grant are being missed. I think you're seeing how much guys like Nerlens Noel and Marvin Bagley are
Yeah.
being missed. I think, even though I know Marvin Bagley isn't known for his defense, but what he does bring at the very least is size to deter at the rim, right? And Nerlens Noel is a really good defensive big who can come in, and especially when you have more difficult assignments like Kristaps Porzingis, who when healthy, when on the court, is one of the more dynamic offensive bigs we have in this league. And, for the most part, showed it tonight. But you know who else had a really good game? Kyle Kuzma.
Yep.
When, and he played, his brand of aggressive basketball, really efficient hoops, played really well on both ends of the court, looked like a really polished, good player. And, ultimately when Bradley Beal came in the fourth quarter and kind of started cooking, it just kind of felt like it was over from there. At the end of the day, did the Pistons play well tonight? No, absolutely not. No, on either end of the court, they were beat on both sides, right? However, I don't, that doesn't mean there's not things you can take away that are positive. That doesn't mean there are things that you can't learn. And the beauty of the NBA, they have another game tomorrow night at home against the Hawks. You'll be there. They'll have an opportunity to respond. That's the beauty of the NBA. You get a chance to go out the next day and redeem yourself.
You know what? And Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren have revealed one thing about this team, and I'm so glad that Detroit Real fans said it, yo. We are slow. We are a slow team. When I see Jaden Ivey get the basketball, take like 3 dribbles, and he's ahead of everybody, like just so far ahead of everybody, I'm just like, wow.
That second unit in particular, in my opinion, especially when you're not seeing Hamidou or Knox on the court, I think when you're having some more of those lineups with guys, like Corey Joseph, even a guy like Saddiq, who, it's not like Sadiq's a slow player, but kind of like you said, like outside of Ivy, Diallo, and Duren, I don't think we have elite athletes on this team, right?
Yeah, one of the things that I was excited about with Killian coming into the season was in preseason and at the practices and such, he looked like way faster with the basketball in his hands. To start the season, he looked sure with the basketball in his hands, but he's just not really going anywhere or doing anything with it. I don't really know what the holdup is. We all know that his biggest drawback has been, and he stated it, confidence, confidence, confidence. And I'm wondering if his head is just in the wrong place right now.
I think he's trying to play aggressive, and I think the problem is sometimes when you think of aggressive, you think that you have to play faster, you have to play harder, you have to go at a more intense rate. But a lot of times, being aggressive means being better with your decision making, knowing where you're going to go with the basketball, knowing what you're going to be doing. And I think that's still the disconnect with Killian is you can tell he wants to make an impact. You can tell he's trying to take more initiative. It's just not at the right time. And it's just the most and sometimes it's just the most inopportune times. I think you saw in particular, I think, not only, I think you're starting to see with Killian as well. And it's unfortunate. A lot of times when the shot's not falling, you see that stem into your decision making. You see it stem into your playmaking, right?
Well, with Killian, what I'm seeing is just I'm not seeing the same since the season has started. I just haven't seen the same guy from the get go. I haven't seen the same guy that we saw kind of picking his spots. He's not taking the same shots, from the mid range that he was knocking down in the practices and such. The things they look comfortable doing. Seems like as soon as the season hit, he's kind of gone back into this role where he's just playing point guard rather than being Killian Hayes that we were kind of getting a little bit excited for coming into this season.
I think, I think part of that too, Kool-Aid, to be honest with you, I think, I think part of it is, if we're being honest, preseason is way less pressure. There's more opportunity to go out and there's way less pressure to go out and execute, because even though there's still eyes on you, and even though it still is like the NBA gym, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count, right? And I think even then you saw the amount of touches and opportunities that Killian was getting was far more up there as well. I think there was a sense of confidence with Killian in the sense that if he messed up or if he made a mistake, he knew he was getting another touch coming really soon. Whereas the reality is, right now, like as far as like in the regular season, like to me, like when you're talking about like if Killian makes a mistake, you're not going to get as many opportunities to go out there and make another mistake. At some point, like Cade's going to have to get the ball back. Like we're going to have to go out and actually like win this game, right?
Well,
like, I don't think there's not as much margin for error.
He's not really getting the mistakes right now. I mean, the time right now. He's getting
that's what I'm saying.
About 17 minutes a game. The starters are playing all like 25 plus minutes a game.
No, that's what
Not getting
that's
it.
what I'm saying is he had the time in the preseason. What I'm saying is that's just not there anymore.
But
And when you don't have
I'm
that
gonna
time to
just
make
reiterate with Killian. Like for me personally, he's just not doing the same things. It's not even about the time. You go back and you look at what he
well,
was doing prior. He's just not doing the same thing, time or not.
I just
I
don't
believe
think you're
the guys.
understanding what I'm saying. I
I've
don't
just
mean
been trying to get my thoughts out about the game, brother.
no, for sure.
You know, I mean, what are you trying to say that I might be missing here?
What I just mean is like it's not like the time of like the minutes he's getting. I just mean like with the preseason, the amount of touches and the way that the game is distributed, the way it flows is just different, right? Like Killian was getting 15 shots, 14 shots in a preseason game because
But
the
that's
opportunity.
because he was just simply doing it. Killian is just not doing the same things. This is not about opportunity. This is if you have 6 shots, then all 6 of them need to be from those hot zones. He's not doing that right now. That's the problem with Killian. I saw Killian take a couple half hook baby, layups. I don't want to see that. That's not Killian's
Right.
game. That's not what we saw was his strengths.
But to
And that's
that point,
that's what I'm talking about.
but
He's
to
just
that
not.
point, my theory is I think what I'm saying is like when I think when you don't have his when he has less of those shots, I think especially like night one, we saw that more of that aggression out of Killian. I think when you see the shot, not falling more and more, and let's be clear, it's not just from beyond the arc right now. Like Killian is, going into tonight is 16% from the field.
Mhm.
And it's for and granted, it's only 3 games, but I mean, when you're talking about wanting to come out and like have a different season, set a different tone, that's something that when it with a player that's, affected by confidence, that can mess with your confidence. You know what I mean? So I think with him specifically, you talk about I think he came out like, wanting to set that tone in the regular season. And I think just, not especially through those first 2 games, he was what? One of 13 from the field, one of 14 from the field. I think
Mhm.
he's just seen the shot not falling down. And I just think you're seeing him slip into a more apprehensive mold, unfortunately. And I hope that doesn't stay the case.
I just haven't seen him actually go out there and take the shots that, as it relates to hot zones. I don't mean as it relates to something he's put out there over like his course of NBA games, but
Mhm.
over the end of last season, which was actual NBA regular season games, he took those shots. He took those shots in the mid range. He took shots squared up from 3-point range, and he put
Mhm.
together a pretty nice stretch. In
Right.
preseason, he extended that and he showed that. So that's the only reason why I put any weight in or on what he was doing in preseason, because it was an extension of what he did in the regular season over several games, which
Right.
Beard highlighted on What We're Pistons podcast. So coming into
Right.
this regular season, for him to absolutely say, you know what? Now I'm not going to do what I was doing in the preseason. Now I'm just not going to do what I showed at the end of the regular season. Because we can't forget that. Go back and look up the box scores, guys, from what was it, March? Man, what are those months that Rod highlighted? I'm gonna get those months up, man. But he had a decent stretch of games. It was exactly how we wanted him to be able to play off the bench. Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden the season starts and everything just looks different. It's almost as if he's playing this kind of back to when Blake Griffin was here. And
Yeah.
I don't, coming off the bench, you expect better, man. I'm seeing this bench get punched in the face every single night. You expect it right now while they're a little thin.
Mhm.
Noel, Bagley, and Burks are going to, and I don't know how sad this is to say, but those guys are going to play huge roles for the bench now, which
Yep.
I thought we were missing them. We would miss them, but I believed Livers, Killian, Duren, and these guys had enough to be able to throw something in the bucket. Now, Duren is almost like a 6th starter, and I do want to talk about that. Duren and Stu right now with the bigs being thinned out, they're not going to be in a position to really, really, really put out their best lineup of bigs. It's going to be a lot of small ball until they get them back, because you only have really 2 bigs that you can rotate, and that's those 2. If they get in foul trouble at the same time, then you're only stuck with small ball for the
Right.
whole entire game. So
Right. And
it's a mess right now, man.
well, and I think part of why they're missed too, and I think part of why like their importance of why they were going to be on the court wasn't just because of like their talent and like what they were bringing in that sense. It's I think we're just seeing how much we just need more veterans on this team, like, on the court at one time. You know what I mean? I think you're seeing the youth in full display, in this initial road trip. And I think, like, I think a lot of things are leaking into both ends of the court. I think, mistakes on the offensive end are leaking over to the defensive end. I think, I think as far as execution, I think, you could talk about, like, any defensive mistakes, execution, things like that. I think, once it started to slip on offense, I think it started to slip on defense as well. So I think, as a whole, this just wasn't a good game. This is just one that, as a team, you just want to forget and move on from as quickly as possible. I don't expect Cade to have like rough shooting nights like this. I think for me, what was more concerning was, you talk about, like, Killian kind of slipping into the background. What about Saddiq? 2 games, like, second time in 4 games where, like, he had those 2 games, in one in New York, one in Indiana, where he went out and was still aggressive on offense, had 20 plus points, was one of our focal points. And then, first game at home against Orlando, tonight against Washington, only 5 shot attempts. Like,
Mhm.
when we're talking about, like, what we want Saddiq to be, when we're talking about how important he is, I mean, we can't have Saddiq only take 5 shots in a game, right? Like, this team's just not, like, we have talent, but he's one of our best players on offense. He needs to be shooting the ball. So,
Yeah,
to me,
it's tough. This one is going to be more of a lineup type issue. How you stagger
mhm,
your lineups, because in that starting lineup, some nights you're going to have one guy that just isn't getting the shot attempts, and when you have Isaiah Stewart getting 11 shot attempts, Cade Cunningham getting 19, Ivy getting 10, Bogey getting 13, and Bey is also playing some time with Duren, who got 6. One guy is just going to kind of be out or down on shots. Now 3 or 5 shots, that's just like you said, that's far too little. I but
right,
but this is what I had down on my notes though. Who is Saddiq Bey offensively? Can you actually game plan an offense for him, or is he just a guy that fits into an offense? Bogey just so happens to be a guy who's efficiently better, but you can actually game plan things. Like, if you say, oh, hey, you know what? Let's go to Bogey in the post. He has a guy who's a few inches shorter than him. You trust that play. Can we say, hey, you know what? Saddiq Bey, go do that? And that's what I'm starting to realize. Maybe the exploration into can he be more for Saddiq Bey is taking him further away from, can you be the best 3-and-D player in the Central? That's something that has really been interesting to me, because what do you do to get him better? Do you want him going and taking the shots at the rim, which he's kind of not necessarily proven to be too consistent at? Do you want him taking the mid-range shots? You know what I'm saying? Or would
right.
you rather game plan to get him open for threes, which I
But
don't really see them doing?
Kool-Aid, he's got to do something. That's the point. Like if because we talked about before, at least with night 1, when he came out and, wasn't shooting, wasn't having many attempts. You know what he did do that night? He took the initiative on the defensive end. He played on that end of the court and contributed. He didn't do that tonight. He also rebounded opening night. He had 2 rebounds tonight. If you look at his plus minus and his overall effect, he had by far the lowest on the team at minus
Mhm.
24. And, like, I'm not saying, and it's, you know, and here's the thing. Tired of forcing shots. Like, it's one of those things where, if you're saying that he just only took 5 because he wasn't forcing his shot, that's great. What else did he do then? What was his other attack? What was his other contribution? Like, that's the thing. Like, you want him to find shots in the flow of the offense. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that, like, I want him to go out there and just take shots to meet a quota, but it's just the point that, if you have to have your imprint at some point in the game. And if Killian's
Yes.
and if Sadiq's not going to do it, shooting every single night, he has to find other ways to have an effect. And I think that's part of why Detroit struggled tonight, was because his effect was missed. It just
I think
was.
their biggest reason for struggle is this. The Pistons' biggest issue, no real consistent paint protection.
Yep.
That's a huge issue. There it goes. Edward Berry, just put it up there. They're undersized, and that is going to be a factor until they get healthy. And the crazy part is we don't know. I'm not going to put a limit. I'm not going to put some cap on what Bagley and Noel can bring to the table. But
Can I just stop one
how
thing
much
real
are
quick?
they going to really change things when they get back?
Can I just stop one thing real quick? There's
Yeah.
a whole lot of Casey's got to go or Casey's the problem talk in the chat right now. And I know we normally roll on and just ignore it. But if you really think like a game like tonight is a showcase that Dwayne Casey's the problem, and if you also think 4 games into the season, we're going to be having any conversation about the pressure being on Dwayne Casey, you're out of your mind. Especially the first road trip of the year.
Yeah, right now, we'll talk about the lineups. We'll talk about decision making. We can talk about his actual game-to-game management, and I'll continue to tell you all this. I'm waiting until a quarter of the season in before I start making any types of light judgments. You know what I'm saying? But for me personally, I'm not making judgments about firing. I'm not making judgments about players should be traded right now or cut. Even Killian Hayes. I'm not going to do that. I will give you my assessment on these players. I will give you my assessment on what the coach is doing from game to game, though, because that stuff matters too. And as that continues to pile up and that track record continues to be what it is.
Hold on.
That
the Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid. This guy brings up a good point. Piston fan 11. Sean, maybe you are wrong. That's a good point. It is their first road trip. They did have 3 days off. That is a good point. That in 3 days, NBA teams are able to fix every single fundamental flaw that's wrong with them. As you know, Kool-Aid, the Los Angeles Lakers, they didn't have a single 3-day break last year. That's why Russell Westbrook wasn't able to fix his jump shot. That's why, Detroit was able to go out. They had 3 days off. They have plenty. Get the out of here.
Look, when I look at the bench, bro, when I actually look at the bench and I look at the box score and I look at other teams every single time, bro, the Pistons are getting pummeled as it relates to bench points. What was the stat, man? They were getting beat by almost 70 points over the first 2 games in bench points. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Sean, if there's any way you could bring that up real quick, man, what the bench points are on the season, but the Pistons are getting punched. And when you look at the bench, right now, there's no way to game plan that at all.
When also, starters, one more thing to Piston fan 11. You're acting like they're out west or something. Let me use my sound effects one more time.
The East is tough, bro.
Yeah, this guy's tough. Let me just get one more. Let me just get something for him, just so he understands really quickly, and then we can get on to the rest of the show. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The East is better, dumbass. All right, that's all I needed. Thank you so much.
I want to address this. This is the issue when you don't have some of your starters here that play a specific position. Coming into the season, everyone say, yo, we got a lot of bigs. Yo, we're stacked there. They did this last year and another year before, and I'm starting to see that you really need a lot of bigs just to try and squeeze 1 or 2 of them out to give you anything in your rotation. You would love to be able to stagger the bench. You would, where is it at? Where's the other one at? Can you bring Bojan off the bench? All right, guys, for when you get those other 2 bigs back, then you can start to talk about staggering and doing things. If you bring Duren into the starting lineup with Beef Stew right now, you have no big off the bench, guys. None. No big. If Stu or Duren gets in foul trouble, which they've already gotten into foul trouble separately, like they stagger in and they get into foul trouble because these refs are not being kind to them. I will state that, but that's still not an excuse. So if Casey goes on ahead and does something like that, I believe you will see good results. But what have you seen the Pistons do? They've gotten off to good starts every game. Right. I think the one that was kind of the most hazy was the Orlando game, and they wound up beating that one, winning that one. They've gotten off to some pretty good starts, even tonight. The starting is not necessarily it. It's going to be when they get the rest of that lineup back, when Casey then can go into, and that's why I'm saying, hey, a quarter into the season, I'm not saying Casey is not up to be judged or critiqued or anything of that nature. But
he's not immune from criticism. It's not like Yeah, like,
But
you know,
what is he supposed to
obviously
do right now with that bench and those bigs being out? Now, when those bigs get back, I don't know how much longer you can keep Jalen Duren on coming off the bench.
yeah.
You know, yeah, I think that he needs to be game planned more. I feel like they just kind of have him out there to benefit based off of his sheer athleticism, his speed, and things of that nature. His basketball IQ, he knows where to be on the court, gets some put back.
I feel like they're
Too
trying to
athletic for that.
I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to, like, have him just play in the flow of the game, right? Like, on both ends of the court, and I think in reality, I think what you're saying is the guy's talented, and also, as we can see, you know, he has you know, good basketball IQ. I think for him, I think, you know, like you said, if they plan on him doing more, if they give him more to do and start, you know, making him more part of the game plan, like you said, I think that's definitely something. And to your point, you know, when you talk about the size off the bench, I mean, who are we bringing in? Isaiah Livers, Amadou Diallo, Kevin Knox, Corey Joseph, Rodney McGruner. Like, stop me here. Like, where's the size?
Yeah,
Seriously. Like,
you know
Jalen
it's
Duren is
funny,
the only size you're bringing off the bench.
Sean and Dwayne. Look, guys, all of us stated that the Pistons would win. Myself, Sean, Jeff,
I said what?
Rod.
30 wins?
We all said between 30
32?
and 35 wins. We said that we believe that they should be challenging for the play-in. That's
Mhm.
what they should be, which means if they are not, believe me, the articles that are going to be written, the content that's going to be produced, the conversations that we're going to have are going to be that. But just like any man, any woman, anybody who's working, you got to let there be a track record. I'm like, even guy got 6 days before he turned around and said it's good. Y'all not even giving the Pistons 6 games, bro. Like that's for me personally. I just say let that stuff breathe
It
because
hasn't
how
even
many
been a
people
week
made
since opening night.
yeah, how many people made those judgments about Cade Cunningham last year? Yo, how many people had to eat that crow last year? And then all of
Right.
a sudden, he was absolutely on fire after All-Star break, putting up for one of those months over 24, 23, 24, 25 points a game. So for me personally, it's just about, hey, look, we will criticize him from game to game. There are
Mhm.
things that are alarming. Killian Hayes is alarming. That's alarming. I know it's 3,
Yep.
4 games in. I believe he'll figure some things out, but not enough that warrants that next contract from the Pistons, personally.
I,
But you know what I'm saying? You wait till you figure these things out. So for me personally, look, the Pistons are a team that is learning to compete. If this
yep.
team does not make any strides, then we start to get into the aspect of why. But until then, guys, come on. Let's go back to what we actually put on wax. We said Pistons were a 30 to 35 win team at best. We said that it would be good if this team would compete for the play-in. We pondered, can they make the Cleveland Cavaliers type jump? Clearly, right now, this team does not look like they are going to. What?
Also, if you're gonna trash the coach, can you at least get his name right? Especially when it's your first name. Like, can we point that out real quick? Like, if you're gonna criticize someone, know their name. In all seriousness, though, all jokes aside, make no mistakes about it. Like, I think there's like misconstruing that, like, what we're saying is that, you know, we're making excuses for why they're playing bad basketball. Make no mistake about it. Yes, they're not playing good basketball right now. That's
Gosh,
not what we're saying.
what 3 years? Like, yeah, what 3 years has Casey had? Like, this first year, the roster was not good. The second
You
year,
mean when
the
he
roster
rode
was
Blake
decent.
Griffin's knee
And
to
this
the
is his
playoffs
third
that
year
got
under Troy.
swept? Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. This is third year under Troy. His fourth year, what, with the Pistons? He took them to what, one playoffs?
Fifth year.
SBG took them to
He
the other
took him
one.
to the playoffs his first year. The second year was with Ed Stefanski, was when they, you know, traded Andre and started the
Right.
transition. And then, you know, third year was when Troy Weaver came in.
Right, right. And it's been roster turnover after roster turnover after roster turnover. We all stated that next year is the year where the Pistons should be like when the Cavs took their jump to sixth place.
Mhm.
We said next year is that year where it should be solidly playing and competing for sixth seed. That's when you should see that, when the Pistons can go and now sprinkle in what they need with their cap space to be able to better accommodate in, their roster. Right now, you got to know what you have.
Right.
Yo, guys, Troy Weaver could already be like, yo, all right, I'm taking my notes. I'm taking my notes. Like, what's that office mean with the temp? Just
Yep.
guys, like trade deadline not even here yet.
Well, and here's
Hey,
the other thing too. It's just the reality of, as you said, we're going to give this season time. We're going to allow this team to develop because the reality of it is when you talk about teams that learn how to compete, when you talk about teams, you look at the Memphis Grizzlies. A lot of people think, tuned in last year, assumed that they just started winning right away. When the reality of it is, if you've been tuning in since John Morant's rookie year, they had a lot of games where they went out and struggled and grinded for wins when they made the play-in a couple of years ago. When John Morant, got these guys into the play-in for the first time, they exceeded expectations, but it didn't come without rough nights. It didn't come without, these trials and tribulations. And the reality of it is when you have a young roster, whether you have high expectations of them or not, you're going to have nights like this where you go out, shots don't fall, you're struggling on defense, and you fall flat. That's just the way this works. That's how young teams work. And if you don't understand that, well, then buckle the up because we have 82 games this season and you're facing some of the best talent we've seen in this NBA. We talk about me making excuses. I'm just telling you how it is, man. This is the deepest Eastern Conference we've ever seen. This is even the Western Conference, which isn't as deep as it has been, is still insanely talented. The reality of it is the Pistons got better this offseason. So did a lot of other teams. So the reality of it is that even if they did have exceeded expectations this year, they were still going to have a difficult road ahead of them no matter what. The Washington Wizards, all credit to them. They were better than I thought they were going to be. But at the same time,
y'all don't understand. He can do this. They're still going to get punked on defense.
Exactly.
It's not going to make a difference.
Also,
it's not going to make a difference, y'all. I promise you on that, on everything I love. It's not going to make the difference that you think. It's really not, especially when the point guards and things of that nature start to change throughout the game, especially when they start calling all those weird cheap fouls on Cade, especially when, you guys got to think about what you're actually saying. Who plays defense? Give me the full lineup. Y'all tell me who's playing defense, who's locking down the paint. You can hedge these guys, and they've tried to do that, and they've gotten holes. Like teams are attacking them. It's also embarrassing how teams are attacking like certain defensive lineups because they know Casey can't do anything but run small ball the entire time. Even Stewart is small ball. Who's our biggest? Who's the next biggest player after Duren, bro? Who's the next biggest player?
Put a comment up for me. The Hunt Jack. We lost to the Wizards, Sean. We lost to the Wizards. It says we lost to the Wizards, Sean. Something is wrong. Our team is better than theirs. At what point over the last 4 years have the Pistons had a better record than the Washington Wizards? Go ahead. I'll wait. No?
Do we have a player on the roster better than Bradley Beal?
Huh? What's that?
Do we have a player on the roster right now better than Bradley Beal? Do we have a player on the roster right now better than Kristaps Porzingis?
We have players that we like. We have players futures
flipping 24 points a game. Like why is Kyle Kuzma averaging 24 points a game, dog?
Yeah, he's their leading scorer. I have no clue what's going on. The Jazz,
though, bro.
The Jazz are 3-0. Like, yeah, Kyle Kuzma's got 25 a game. The Jazz are 3-0. There's a lot of things about the NBA that don't make sense right now. However, the Pistons being 1-3, that's not one of them. That makes sense to me. I'm not surprised.
What up,
I got to put my mic back on. That bit made me make my mic fall off.
I do want to say this. Coming into the game, Cade's stats were up across the board, and obviously this game they're still going to be up. Last year he was at what, 17-3-3 or something like that, his rookie year. What was he his rookie year, the end of the year? Let me get his rookie year stats up here. Yeah, 17 5 and 5. 17 5 and 5. Rebound slightly down, assists up. He's at this year 18.37 and 4.3. Now his shooting, that's the concern, but he's not down by much, man. His 3-point shooting percentage is up on the year this year, and his field goal percentage is only down about 2%. And he's taking more threes this year. Huh? And it's 4 games. I get you. We'll be patient, bro. We'll get that mic in. I'm just getting these stats off because, when you actually look at Yeah, 4 games. When you look at what Cade Cunningham is actually doing, he is not our concern at all. I believe that Cade is looking forward to getting Marvin Bagley back or being able to play more pick and rolls with Jalen Duren. That was
Well,
when we saw the Pistons offense last year take off. If you guys remember last year, when Cade Cunningham got Marvin Bagley, we all said, yo, this is what we've been waiting for. Now, have they had that player? They haven't had that player. What it's showing is that the Pistons need a lot more. Yeah, Mathurin did give us he gave us buckets. That boy came out with a vengeance and with a mission, man. And he stated after the game, he's like, "No, I know who was drafted before me. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure they know every single game." You know what I'm saying? He did. He came out and gave us buckets. And that just speaks more to our inability going back to last season. These are things that plagued us last year. Perimeter defense, switching defense, paint defense, the whole defense. Like Killian Hayes is somebody that's supposed to be known for at least his defense. We're all supposed to be able to sit here. All 100 of us that's on this chat right now are all supposed to say, you know what? We know Killian got to get his shot together. We know Killian got to get his scoring together, but at least he can play lockdown defense. At least he can play make. He's not doing that this year. He's not doing that yet. 4 games in though. 4 games in though, but he's not doing that yet. They say who's in charge of defensive schemes. They do need a new defensive scheme. I don't know. I feel like what they're doing right now is something different. Without Jeremy Grant, this is something we talked about. We talked all summer about the fact that we are underestimating the loss of Jeremy Grant.
yep.
Without Jeremy Grant being there, there is a hole at the wing. And it's very clear now that Isaiah Livers and Saddiq Bey, they have a little ways to go if they're ever going to match that. Like Jeremy Grant is literally a couple inches taller than them and 4 or 5 inches wider on the wingspan.
Well, and especially missing Noel and Burks as well. I think like 2 guys who are a little bit longer. And Bagley, I think without that length, I think the switching defense is more inherently difficult. I do agree that, like if we are going to keep over this extended stretch playing, I wouldn't be opposed to switching to a different scheme, playing more man-to-man, switching up looks, playing a little bit more 2-3 zone,
man,
right? Like I don't, and listen, I don't think Dwayne Casey's opposed to switching it up and having different looks. We've seen that, he's willing to make adjustments, right? So I think, a lot of it is just going out and, experimenting and playing, seeing what works and what doesn't. And, overall, I think a lot of it is, I think a lot of, make no mistake about it, like Kool-Aid and I have concerns, right? Like there's things that, we see that we're like, okay, they have to be better, right? However, at the end of the day, I think, the difference is when watching these games, the reason why we're not stressing as much to these losses, especially these early losses, is because I think, quite frankly, first of all, we realize the youth that with the injuries that were coming in, that it's almost to be expected with a young team. But also, in addition, it's the opportunity for this team to respond to, go out and, yes, although they did not play well, they get to go back home tomorrow night. And yes, they face an Atlanta Hawks team who's really good. He was did you not see?
We're gonna get to that, bro. I'm gonna say this. You have to understand something here. Last year, right? We praised Troy Weaver for the trades that it's all right, bro. We'll get there. Hold on. We praised Troy Weaver for these trades that he made to set us up for the future. And we all scream, future! Guys, but to do that, we had to get rid of some actual NBA rotation players, right? When the Pistons went on their run, Sean, we all exclaimed it's because they're what? Healthy. Cade Cunningham, was he out there playing with a bunch of rookies like and young players like he is this year? Or was he actually running pick and rolls with Marvin Bagley, Kelly Olynyk? Oh, was he passing it to Jeremy Grant and everyone getting the heck out the way so he could just run? You remember the Boston guy can pull up different games. Jeremy Grant was absolutely busting tail on both ends of the court, or else the Pistons wouldn't have won. The steps forward we believed the Pistons were going to take, we all cautioned and said, you know what? they're going to be better, but it might not show up in the wins because of what they lost. They lost NBA players.
And the
That's
reality of it is they took that money that they used for Jeremy Grant and they went out and got Jalen Duren with the cost of eating the salary of Kemba Walker this season. Right. So
yeah.
like when you go out and make those moves, and if for a guy that we love, by the way, Jalen Duren, who's been fantastic, I think, overall, you look at the fact that I think here's the things you want to see from coaching, by the way. Like, if you really want to talk about, like, why there's reasons to be optimistic. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren in elevated roles, even though the team hasn't really played that great yet, both are exceeding expectations. Jaden Ivey is much better of a passer than I think we all could have expected. Had another game with no turnovers, by the way. In addition, Jalen Duren, being the force that he is on both ends, he only had 2 personal fouls tonight as well. That's something to be impressed by as well. Like, a lot of those things that you talk about that are like discipline based or like that are based in coaching, they're actually like not doing that bad at it. Especially like even offensively, you look like yes, they had 13 turnovers, but that's not many turnovers. Like, in the grand scheme, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's 13 too many because you don't want any turnovers as a team. But I mean, for the grand scheme of things, like, it's not like there's things that they're doing well, right?
Yep.
So like, it's not like this is like a complete regression across the board. Guys just aren't performing. It's not like with Saddiq either. It's not like we haven't seen him go out and score 26 points just a few days ago.
Yeah, go look at Saddiq Bey was averaging like 18 coming into the game, guys.
And also,
I'm not
we're not even gonna like listen. We're not like we're not gonna keep addressing some of those types of comments in our chat. But like, here's the one thing: did y'all forget he scored 51 last year? Like, am I the only one? And even then, like, even if we're like, oh well, that's one game, Sean. What about the month where he averaged like over 20 when him, Jeremy, and Cade were all playing in the lineup together? And Saddiq was explosive on the offensive end.
Last season, guys, some of these guys are working on things. These are developmental years, yeah. And yes, there are things to criticize, but what is your takeaway? I think that's where the disconnect is. We can criticize all day long, but what's the big picture and what is the takeaway? Like with this, Dominic Davis, that's one of our regulars. So shout out to him, man. He said, can coaching at least get Stewart to set an actual screen to pin the guard, Ivy or Cade, instead of always slipping? No, they can't. They've tried. Think about it. They've brought in Rashid. They've brought in Ben. They've had these guest people come in to practice. You don't think that these people are saying, bro, set a real screen? I'm not saying he's not setting a real screen. Boy, I got to keep this in check. But Dominique, trust me, bro. I see what you're seeing, but I'm telling you, that's not on coaching. What's happening right now is, like I told y'all, Troy is going, because there are decisions that have to be made. And we've already seen Troy is not the person to not make the hard or tough decision, man. These guys just got their 3rd-year options picked up, and he said, hey, guys, go out there and play ball. Go out there with your minds clear. He set them up for as much success as they can have. I will say this. You know what? The team is not looking too tough. They're not.
They have been soft so far. I agree with that. Yeah,
I will agree with that, and that's what I'm stating. I don't know if it's players, if it's coach, what mix of it. I do want to see this team when they get their size back, though. I do want to be fair to that. That's all that I'm stating. But yeah, there are things to criticize. But what's the takeaway? That is a takeaway. One of them is that they are soft. They are soft, but they are a young team in the middle of a rebuild. Like, really, a rebuild within a rebuild. The first year I felt like was what they thought was going to be their foundation. Then when they got Cade, they went and started that whole thing over. Because what happened with Jeremy Grant and Kelly Olynyk and their NBA players? The actual guys, they're vets who could actually ball. We see what Kelly Olynyk is doing right now. 2nd in the NBA in three-point shooting. Would be first if Kojo probably dropped tonight, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Kelly Olynyk is balling right now. Jeremy Grant is hooping right now. You telling me those 2 guys added into this lineup right now wouldn't inject offense, defense, and toughness, playmaking? You see what I'm saying? You remove those guys and you're replacing it with less than we had last year. We don't have Marvin Bagley, which that team had last year. You know, when he gets back, I believe you're gonna see Cade be completely even better, not different, but even better. I 100% believe that. That is his pick and roll guy. Y'all want to start talking about why does the offense look different? It's that. It really is that. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that I see a lot of the hate towards Casey. Look, the only people struggling on this team are Killian and a few bench guys who we all expected to kind of struggle. The starters have largely done well. They all have. Cade
Mhm.
his stats are a step forward. Saddiq Bey, until this game, was averaging 18 points. You know what I'm saying? Coming into this game.
Right.
Bojan Bogdanovic, he just fit right in. You can see when they get a guy who knows how to play the game, who's a vet. That's why when Roddy Magruder comes in, he doesn't skip a beat. He just plays the game. He's a vet. He already has it up here. Bojan the same way. These young guys don't got that yet.
Mhm.
They just don't.
Yeah, and, like, when you talk about, like, getting toughness, like, at the end of the day, you
Kelly had a
have
little
guys.
toughness, man. Give him a little credit, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christina watches.
Oh my gosh, but in all seriousness, like, you look at, like, you look at, like, what this team, has done so far, and again, you look at, the issues on the defensive end, and specifically, like, we're talking about, like, toughness, you know.
What does he say, Kate? I'm sorry, bro. Kate needs to eat meat and drink Red Bull, bro.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot his, going, shooting 8 of 19 from the field is because, or 7 of 19 is just because he's vegan.
But
That's
bro, hold
But
on.
even then, like, it's like,
Kate is
even then, like, we're
averaging.
acting like Cade is a bust off of, like, a
But
game where he, like, was fine. Like,
Sean,
it wasn't his greatest performance, but, like.
but bro, I swear if we look, I'm gonna look it up. I feel like his true shooting has to be up because he's shooting higher, like 5% higher from three, and only 2% lower on his field goal percentage coming into this game.
Mhm.
What do and he's averaging more points, more shots, more points, more makes, more 3-point attempts, more 3-point makes than last year. He's just not being a ball hog. That's it. And he's doing it so savagely. Like
Well,
I
I
wish
think
his
it and it
efficiency
and it
was
comes.
up just a little bit, but he's doing it at a pace that's just like, and now that's my thing. I'm gonna write about this. Tim McCormick talked about it too in Bally Sports Detroit, and I thought maybe he's acquiescing to Jaden Ivey. But with their lack of scoring, Cade and Ivy need to just be attacking from the get-go. They just need to get going. That mid-range that Cade showed that he could absolutely work last year, he needs to just get to that spot. If a guy's gonna let you go, I'm not saying be absolutely reticent to just, I'm not gonna play make, but Cade, you are the best player on this team. We need you. like the team
Mhm.
needs you. That's just it. What you got for
Well,
me, Sean?
I mean, again, and again, it's like, I know he definitely has to be more aggressive at the outset. You look at the shot chart. It's not like he isn't the number one, shot taker most nights. But again, it is that fact that it does seem like, he
Yeah.
generally tries to get other guys going
It's the
before he gets
timing
himself
shit.
going. And a lot of the times he'll start to take over as the game goes on. But like you said, sometimes you need and I think this is where, you talk about, where, guys need to learn, like the NBA game is, being able to learn how the flow of 4 quarters works versus the college game, how it works you need to set the tone and play physical, aggressive basketball 4 quarters. The Pistons have moments where they're tough. The Pistons have moments where they're aggressive. The Pistons have quarters and drives and stretches where they play really good basketball. What you've seen is that they're not putting it together in all 4 quarters. They're not putting it together
Mhm.
throughout the game. And, even Detroit, they came out and they competed in the beginning of the first half. They come out in the second half, they slip. What happens? Right? Like that's the reality. So when you're talking about like, like what, like a lot of this comes down to like with Cade, with that aggression, it's about looking to kill from the offset because, you can't go in assuming that you're going to have time to get back in later. Like, you have to set yourself up and make sure that you're staying in it all 48 minutes.
Yeah, and because that's why this highlight commented. It's like people miss a lot of context so much. It's interesting that other media, other beat writers, other personalities, Valley Sports Detroit, they all see the same thing. It's about the onset of the game. It's about what Cade was doing last year versus this year, and it's similar. Cade generally is a warm-up type of player. He's a guy that gets it going as the game goes on because, and he said it himself, he wants to get his teammates involved early and he wants to play make. That's just what's on his mind.
And yeah, for a player that's so selfless and team oriented, like, he's going out, aggressive, but his aggression is in his playmaking. But like you said, like a lot of times for stars, like, quite frankly, you got to go out and set the tone first, and then as the game goes on, start to get guys going alongside you. But you got to set the tone early.
And what that does, what Cade Cunningham going out there and setting the tone early does, why it matters that he does it then versus later, his shot attempts are going up because his team is sucking butt coming out of the half. Then all of a sudden you see Cade taking shots. What does everyone keep saying? He taking shots that he don't look like he take those shots last year. What is he doing out there? But those are the complaints. So y'all say, oh, you need to take the shots. He take the shots. Then all of a sudden, when I say he needs to change up the types of shots he does and when he takes them, then all of a sudden you want to criticize that comment. You guys are going to criticize anything that comes up. But the reality is this. If Cade gets to his spots early and this team has a solid lead or at least a better competitive lead, they won't find themselves in a position later where they have to go and start firing off 3-point shots, where you see them trying to play extra aggressive, and then all of a sudden the careless turnovers start to come. At the end of that first quarter, where they lost the lead, that's what was starting to happen. It was people forcing and pushing, and it was just some absolutely careless turnovers. They lost the lead, and I had a feeling from that point they're not getting this back because when they have to go to the bench, they're gonna lose it. And now they're going to be playing this ebb and flow of shoot some threes, trying to get quick shots up, and they're not their best when they're doing that. They're just not. The Pistons are not. They don't have the players. They don't have the personnel to be able to do that right now. I'm still, like I said, waiting to see what Casey's going to do. But you have to understand, with 4 games in, there's not a lot that Casey's going to change as a coach, and a coach that is a figure who is kind of more like a manager, to be able to have the trust of your players and to make sure that you're giving them their full due, to make sure that players on your squad know that they're going to get their full due and the support and all of that. There's some things that you just stick with, even if it looks broken for a little bit, because you got to have that track record on there as a coach. I'm just being as real as I can be. And that happens sometimes. You go out there and you say, look, guys, we practice this, and you have hierarchies on your team. You got guys out there that are supposed to be putting it up. If Casey continues with this and does not change anything, then yeah, those are things that you can start looking at and say, something else has to be done here. Something else seriously and significantly has to be done here. We were at least competitive last year. Well, because we actually had NBA rotation players. Again, I'm going to just, from Motown Money 313, we replaced Jeremy Grant and Kelly Olynyk, who were 2 players that played key roles during the Pistons' competitive stage last year.
And we were also competitive. We were also competitive at the end of last year.
Yeah,
and that's the key. Is that a lot of times when, and you're going to, and I'm, I know no matter what I say, it's going to be, well, guys, you're just making excuses because you're fans, when in reality, we just cover the team. And at the end of the day, you can just take or leave whatever we say. But the reality of it is that when you talk about, like, why it is that it's not the same, you go back to, like you said, not only the players that you're missing from last year's rotation, but the players that you're missing from this year's rotation. You go into the fact that this is their first road trip of the year, that they're going into their first game of their second back-to-back of the season already. In addition, you go into a game where it's kind of weird to think about the fact that the Pistons haven't won in Washington since 2014. But that's a whole other thing. For whatever reason, it just seems to be like one of those games that's just a struggle for Detroit whenever it comes across their calendar. But the reality of it is, I think the other thing we saw, tonight, flat out, Wizards were the better team. Wizards were the deeper team. And, they were able to overcome when their star was out, and you saw great play overall. I think that's just another thing to bring up too, is just Washington was better tonight.
Sean, Kelly Olynyk played 40 games for the Pistons, 19 minutes a game. Was one of the better shooters on the team. Was what? About 45%.
He missed a lot of the beginning of the season due to his MCL sprain. However, when the team actually started to, play really good basketball down the stretch, Kelly Olynyk was a big role of that. So,
and that's what I'm trying to tell people. When you look at last year's roster, there were just better players on the roster. Not, I don't want to say better players. Let me say more mature players that are kind of more in their prime. Jeremy Grant is a big loss, you guys. You gotta accept that. Jeremy Grant played a huge role on this team, and we all stated, hey, you're underestimating the loss of Jeremy Grant. Kelly Olynyk, when the Pistons went on that roll, I saw someone say that they weren't competitive last year for the first half, but post All-Star break, they were actually pretty competitive. In games that Cade Cunningham was healthy and played in, and they weren't tanking, the Pistons were about 500 in those games. Cade Cunningham was averaging 22, 7, and 7 during that time. Killian Hayes was averaging about 12, 5, and 5 during that time. Jeremy Grant, Saddiq Bey, and Kelly Olynyk, and Marvin Bagley. That's an NBA roster there, guys. Those guys were all hooping. Jeremy Grant had a couple games where he was the reason why the Pistons won. Saddiq Bey had the 50-point explosion. Cade Cunningham had the Michael Jordan month of March. These are the things that happened last season, and the bench was much more stout. It just was. It was a little bit better during that same run. They were able to bring up the guys even from the G League. Bro, they won a game against the San Antonio Spurs last year with Jaime Diallo in the G League roster.
Yep.
With Luka Garza, Braxton Key, and a couple guys from that roster, just because of guys like Bagley and some of the other complementary players that they had. This year, it is a young team. That's a team that's going to look bad, and that's what they've looked. That's not an excuse.
Yeah. Especially
that just is what it is. They've looked bad. We agree.
Yeah.
What did you expect? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the difference. We're just telling you why.
Exactly.
that's the difference. Yeah, they've been bad. Their average age, even with Bojan coming on the roster, was 24.9, which was up from 23.2 last year. So, especially in October, you're gonna make mistakes.
We were all the ones staying. I can tell you this. I know he's messing, but I know fans, when we were getting on here, bro, we did a whole diatribe to Jeremy Grant. We did several tributes to Jeremy Grant. And even when he got traded, on the draft show, we did our whole you sang a beautiful song for him, if I remember, Sean.
Oh yeah.
We this was one I remember when Rod said, who is guarding anybody on the wing? And you look at this squad now, bro. They can't guard anybody on the wing. These wing players are punking us, and there's a difference. There's a difference. When people say, "Yo, why are they thinking about playing Saddiq Bey more like a two guard?" Well, because those threes, those are tough to defend. Who's he guarding, man? Bro, oh my gosh, we got the back-to-back against Giannis and the Bucks coming up.
Yeah, and even tomorrow night,
who's defending these guys?
Well, even tomorrow night, talking about second night of the back-to-back, yes, we're going to be at home, and that'll be nice. We're facing the Hawks. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, John Collins, really good team with playoff aspirations. There'll be another good test. But I think ultimately it's about, even through these, difficult games, what you want to see, first of all, how does the team respond tomorrow night in the second night of a back-to-back? Right? At home. How do guys, come out and respond? Especially, players like, Saddiq, who struggled from the field. Guys like Isaiah Stewart, who probably didn't have his greatest game overall. Cade, who didn't shoot the greatest, overall. I think, you're looking at a whole. It's like, these types of games are opportunities to respond. But also, they're these are reality days for these young guys, too, of saying, welcome to the NBA. This is the reality of it. It's a lot of traveling, a lot of action in very short amount of time. And also, you're facing good players each and every night. All credit like to the teams that we faced so far, it's crazy, like we face, but like when you really look at it, like this is really going to be like our first really big test, like tomorrow night, a team in Atlanta that, a couple of years ago was in the conference finals and then go and trade for an all-star this offseason too, right? Like when you talk about like, I think, you're going to say, well, they have young guys too. What's the difference from Atlanta and like Atlanta went through numerous years of a rebuild. Even Trae Young's first 2 seasons went through a lot of losing basketball and, and trials and tribulations to get to where they were. They overperformed the year that they went to the conference finals after they, by the way, came out and played like absolute hot dog water to start their season just 2 years ago. So like the reality of it is, and also can we not forget that like last year, the Boston Celtics were 7 games out of 500 at one point in December. Like that happened. And I'm not saying that like the Pistons are going to go to the finals. That's not at all what I'm saying. The Pistons, the reality of it is we're not, I don't think that play-in is looking realistic right now either. But the reality of it is that there is nothing by any means written with the beginning of the year. Again, if the season were to end today, the Golden State Warriors would be in the play-in tournament, and the Utah Jazz would be having a home game in the NBA playoffs. You expect that to happen, Kool-Aid?
No.
So that's the reality of it.
No, not one bit. And
give these guys some time. Give these guys some reps. Let them make mistakes. Let them grow. I promise you, in the months of November, December, as guys are getting back in the lineup, as guys are getting more reps, as they're learning how to play together, and also how to pick up the slack of those guys that they're missing and learning to play without. Because y'all said you wanted more opportunities for Saddiq last year, right? He's getting every opportunity Jeremy had last year now.
Yeah.
This is what you wish for. So that's the reality of it. He's not only getting that opportunity on offense, he's getting that opportunity on defense too.
And I wanted to, and that's the thing. You got to see what you have. Look, do you know what you're paying Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart? There had to be a decision made on Killian Hayes. These decisions have to be made, but you got to see what you got. This is the perfect year to see what you have with the perfect excuse when you ship your NBA guys out of here. Trust me, I like the Jeremy Grant trade too. But if you're going to take the Jeremy Grant trade, you also have to take the drawbacks with that. That's the problem. You can't say, okay, I like the Jeremy Grant trade, but all of a sudden we look like a young team that's making a lot of mistakes and losing like a young team. I don't like that. Well, then we got to go back and get Jeremy Grant.
You can't trade Jeremy Grant and then go, man, we really need a big wing perimeter defender who can also score the bat. It's like
we mortgage that for our future. That's the problem. So we're going to have some drawbacks. That's the issue. Bogey, for what he brings offensively, he ain't bringing it defensively. There's going to be drawbacks. And that's the beautiful thing about it is that our holes, the weaknesses that this team has can easily be drafted for. Now, that doesn't solve our problems because, again, that's just compounding the young thing. But 2, with the cap space that we have, there's a lot of people that I saw, a lot of different candidates, and we're going to get into that as the season goes on, Sean, that are going to be perfect trade candidates.
Yep.
Perfect trade candidates. This team is going to be able to go out there and meticulously plug its holes by having its pick, just because there are going to be a lot of teams who are looking to move up and move around in this upcoming draft. They're going to play ball with the Pistons. How do we know? Didn't they do it this past season? Didn't we state that was going to happen? Look, this year is one in which I wanted this team, and I still believe this team will go out there and be competitive. I do believe that. Win is the issue. I believe they have to get healthy. They definitely got to get healthy, but we got to understand that there's going to be a lot that's going. Jeremy Grant was a ball stopper. Look, for as much of a ball stopper as people say he was, there was time when I hear that all the time, and I state this: who is he supposed to pass to? There's more offensive talent on this year's team than there was for him necessarily last year in his lineup.
Also, you know what else he was? You know what else he might have been? You might have thought he was a ball stopper. You know what else he was? He was a ball stopper on the defensive end. He stopped the ball from going in. And as much as a lot of people like to get a lot, as much as people really like to focus on what his ball stopping on the offensive end, they don't like to point out all the things that he brought to us and all the ways that he made us more competitive.
Well,
Again,
who's regressed multi-money 3-on-3? I feel like Killian Hayes, if you want to say regression, or if he's kind of been the same, he's
I
not
think he's
showing
been the
that
same.
flash, but he's pretty much the same. Outside of that flash last year, which he's proving is more of an aberration, I'm hoping he can prove that that's actually the trend. But who's regressed?
Truly,
Cade,
truly, who's
Saddiq, those
regrets?
guys came into this game. Even I'm looking at Beef Stew too. He's playing a little bit differently than he did last year, but
Mhm.
he's seeming to be a little bit better effective player. He looks a little bit more tough in the paint.
Another
Um,
double-double tonight too. More
yeah.
yeah, 2 straight nights where he's getting on the glass. I think the other thing too, you're seeing that his offensive game is more expansive. He's finding more shots and more opportunities, but I think with that, I think a lot of those picks, I think a lot of that is I think that's a habit thing. I think a lot of it's an energy thing as well. I think, when you're on the offensive end, a lot of times, it's about, setting good habits and making sure you're not just setting lazy picks. And I think that's the reality of it is like, a lot of times like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get him to drink. It's like, hey, you can put Isaiah in the position. You can say, hey, you're the pick man. But in reality, it's about that habit of, because those are the habits that you
Mm,
talk about of like a young team that you have to snap right away. Like those are the things of, I can guarantee you like everything you're talking about, like, oh, like what about Saddiq, like Isaiah's picks, like all that stuff. Like, not only like Kool-Aid, you're like, you really think Troy isn't taking no, you really think Dwayne Casey isn't going to show Stu that in film tomorrow? Like you really think they're not going to go like, of course they're gonna go over that, right? But, like,
mhm.
the reality of it is that these guys know what they have to do. They know how they have to be better, and, like, ultimately, again, there's still silver linings. I think I can say through 4 games, Jaden Ivey at points has looked like an absolute stud. That layup he had with his left hand that went over the basket, around and through, beautiful. His running mate, Cade Cunningham, didn't have his greatest game tonight. I think he's
Mhm.
looked excellent thus far. Beef Stew, more, like you said, he might not, there might still be moments where, he looks like a liability, around the rim and needs some help with rim protection. However, his offensive game looks expanded. And at times, he might not be hitting, shots at all times. When he's making shots? When it matters, when it counts. And so, that's something that's not insignificant either. And then you talk about Bojan Bogdanovic and what the offensive godsend he's been. Like you talk about, like, to your point, Kool-Aid, like I actually think if we had Alec Burks in our second unit or even Marvin Bagley, I think we'd be 2-2 right now. I think it'd be a little bit of a different conversation.
I actually I get with that, and that's why I said I just want to wait. Like Troy Weaver traded for these guys and stated these guys were going to be a part of the rotation. I know a lot of people said, no, 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 we want the young guys to play, but now we're getting a full taste of why having the young guys play sometimes is not the way to go. You want these guys to be able to play in competitive games, and we're going to need the bigs back to do that. Burks, Bagley, and Noel, they're all big. Even if Noel can only give you 10 minutes a game, the type of play he can give you is a type of play that allows you to properly be able to stagger those minutes and those lineups that you guys are asking for, so that we can get our shooters in our scores and more, better accommodating positions. Burks and Bagley are hoopers, y'all. Like they're not just whatever guys. These are hoopers. Bagley can instantly come back and give us a good 15 and 8 easily, guys. It doesn't take him a lot. Bagley doesn't need a lot of ISO to do that. 1, 2, 3 pick and rolls, and that boy got 6 points in the first quarter, 6 points, 3 boards in the first quarter with Cade Cunningham. Easily. Burks can
Right.
shoot the rocks. Sean, tell them that Burks can shoot. Burks would help this team instantly in each one of the games. Alec Burks would have helped this team. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
oversell these two players because I don't think it's going to drastically change the team. But as it relates to what's missing right now and what those players bring to the table, it helps to better balance the lineup.
They're
It
not
brings
missing
a
2
lot more to the bench.
They're not
Yeah.
they're not missing 2 all-star caliber players, but they are missing 2 guys who can go get you 10, 15 points each and every night. And when you add that up, that's about, 25, 30 points on your second unit that you're actively missing. That's a significant difference, especially in a guy like Alec Burks, who's a career 38% three-point shooter, more consistently has been 40% from three as his career has gone on. And then Marvin Bagley, what was the number one thing we said about him last year? His ability to go out and get 20 points when there was no offense being run for him. And so
None.
for him to be able to go out there and, in the second unit, be able to create your own offense, both guys who can create their own offense, by the way. Alec Burks, a guy who, can catch and shoot threes and, help guys like Isaiah Livers stretch the floor even further for that second unit. The reality is, I'm not saying we're missing a super team, but you know what we're missing? Two guys that would really be helping that second unit out right now.
Yeah, and I see everybody saying the defense. Yeah, we're going to continue to state that the defense is not it. In case he lamented about it during the preseason, he stated exactly what we were saying. We're like, man, they weren't that good on defense last year. Casey came in it and said, "Yo, this team is having a hard time with staying with guys on the perimeter." And if we're gonna be honest here, I was trying to be nice before the season started, and I said, you know what? Behind Cade and Killian and Ivy, who's trying hard, who was actually able to play defense, real defense on the perimeter? And now, when I'm looking at it, all I can say realistically is behind Cade and kind of Ivy, who on this team is playing good defense on the perimeter, bro? Like
Right. Well,
Isaiah Stewart and Duren are, but I'm talking about guards.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, like again with Killian, your defensive effort and your times that your ability on defense is great. If you can't make a shot, you can't stay on the court. That's just the reality of it, right? And like Hamidou Diallo hasn't exactly been playing his greatest basketball either to justify his existence on the court at all. I mean, he's been. I thought tonight was probably his best game of the season so far, but like that's not saying a lot, right? I think ultimately, like, looking at like the team as a whole, like, like again, like Isaiah Livers, he has moments where he looks solid off defensively. And like there were even tonight, I thought there were a few moments where like, like where I thought they were actually playing pretty good defense. I just thought they made some tough shots, fall. But at the end of the day, like again, the other thing too, when, like sometimes like some of the really difficult things too with Ivy at times, especially, he'll go and drive and he'll penetrate the basket. He'll fall on his way to the basket, not stay upright, and then it's 4-on-5 instantly, right? And I think that's, and not saying that happens all the time, but there's definitely moments where it's noticeable, right?
Yep, it is. And those types of things, film cleans up very, very quickly for rookies. Cade Cunningham stated it. He said he wished he knew what he knew coming to a second year. He wished he knew it as a rookie. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, they're going to get there, man. You guys can see it. They're going to get there, but it's going to take making these mistakes and getting it out of them. Their college coaches were decent college coaches, but they weren't, trying to make sure these were $1 million players. They were trying to make sure they could get as far as they could get. I mean, sometimes when you sit down to do these film studies, it's not going to be as detailed as that. That's an astute point. Hey, I don't care if you think you got fouled, you got to get up. But I see here, yeah, our interior defense is putrid, but somehow we also keep giving up wide open. So that's the point. The defenses know if we get to be inside into the paint of the Pistons, their defense is going to have to collapse, leaving outside shooters open.
Yeah.
And we have some slow. You guys said it in the beginning of this. We got a slow team. They're slow-footed. There's a lot of guys who I saw Bojan do this. I saw Cade got a couple times doing this. They sink down to help, and they're just too slow getting back. Or they do the half skip and don't get all the way back. Hami did that a couple times, bro. And it started to make me a little frustrated. They don't get all the way up onto the shooter. When you're getting your eye dotted, you got to get up on the shooter. Like, you want to see that effort. And Sean and I, we talked about this from the beginning. That effort, it's something that you want to see, man. They got to bring a little bit more on that end of the court.
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, these issues that, that the Pistons are experiencing right now aren't uncommon for young teams to experience. In fact, I think these are exactly the types of issues I think we would be anticipating at the beginning of the season, Kool-Aid, right? I mean, like with guys, getting their first reps, playing in their first NBA games. Quite frankly, I thought turnovers was going to be a little bit more of an issue than it has been. I think they've been a little bit better in like taking care of the ball. But I think that's something that, like, to that point, I think one of the things that like I've noticed immediately, and like I saw a tweet earlier that said like the Pistons, like, in order for the Pistons to win games, they need a 22-year-old Jalen Duren when they have an 18-year-old Duren. The crazy thing is, he's at the point already 4 games in where his presence feels missed when he's not on the court, and that's why we have conversations about him entering the starting lineup. And to Kool-Aid's point, it's more of a conversation you can have when someone like Marvin Bagley returns to the lineup, or even someone like Nerlens Noel, because at that point you can at least bring someone else off the bench. For now, if you bring in Duren and Stu to the starting lineup, not only is foul trouble going to be an issue, not only is size going to be an issue in that second unit, but also the other thing too, offense, spacing, immediately a problem. What happens if Saddiq only has 5 shot attempts in a starting lineup with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart in significant stretches? They're not getting offense, right? We talk about meaning like I understand wanting to move, Bojan Bogdanovic to the bench, but can we honestly, even though we've been struggling on defense when we didn't even score 100 tonight, are we honestly having that conversation when he's been our most consistent offensive player? Like that's the thing. Like I get, I get the size has been a problem, but on the flip side, Bojan's been our best player since he's gotten here. He's been our most consistent.
What Bojan represents is that player who you don't have to game plan for, but he's going to get you 20 points easy.
Yep.
He's just a guy who can catch it anywhere and shoot it. You saw him get into the paint a little bit, and hit that little fadeaway. I seen him do a mid-range. It was awesome. The thing that I want to see the Pistons do more of is actually play to that. If they are working on things and telling guys to develop while they're getting healthy, I can understand it. And I know that was part of the case last year with Saddiq Bey and some of these other guys. While the team is getting healthy, they had Saddiq Bey just going out there working on different things. In case he spoke to it, he said I was hoping to see more of Saddiq Bey handling the rock, playing the pick and roll game. But if he's just not there, you don't want to put that on tape. You don't want to put that out there. Not at all. But what you got up here, bro?
Yeah, got a guy Ash, and he said, always remember, before being successful, you always have to have a story to tell. The reality of it is, Rome wasn't built in a day. Empires aren't built overnight. Great sports programs, championship basketball programs are not built overnight. And so I know this is a law. I know this loss sucks, and I know losing sucks, and I know we've done a lot of it over the last couple of years. And you know what? I know we're going to do it a lot more this year.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is,
I want to ask this, when you're done, I want to ask a question. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, but the reality of it is that, as the season goes on, not only are there more opportunities to go out and get better, but also there's opportunities to go out there. There's going to be nights. There's going to be moments where this team has winning streaks. There's going to be moments where this team goes out and has losing streaks. That's just the nature of an 82-game season. So at the end of the day, this team's going to be very different at the end of April than it is at the end of October. Just remember that.
Yep. And what I will ask is, I do want to ask the chat too. If anybody thinks that there's excuses being made before we close, definitely. What excuses are being made? Seriously.
Yeah, where's the lies?
What excuses are being made? The team needs to play better defense. Killian needs to be better. He is looking trash right now. It's not good. It's not what he put on tape even last season.
Yeah, Cade needs to attack more early and often. Saddiq needs to attack more consistently each and every single night. The defense, the defense as a whole, guys like Jalen Duren, as good as he's been, if he's going to want to be in the starting lineup, he's going to have to continue to keep it down on the personal fouls. And also, quite frankly, if he's going to be in the starting lineup, he's going to have to do a little bit more on the offensive end than he's done so far too. That's another reality of it as well.
Hold on. Somebody said, all right, so somebody posted something. So he said, the team looks terrible, and you guys are saying it's because they're young. Okay, then the team looks terrible because why? They're the 5th youngest team in the league or something like that? Somebody tell me why. I said, I swear, I feel personally offended. I swear I brought actual basketball points. I thought I said that there's less NBA actual players on this roster. They got rookies. This is not just about young. This is about the fact that Jeremy Grant was a guy who could have made the All-Star game. Kelly Olynyk is an NBA rotation player. These guys are NBA scorers. NBA, even Kelly Olynyk, he's not like the best of defenders, but he was not. He was more effective than some of these bigs tonight.
Hey,
I will tell
King.
you that.
I mean, Kool-Aid. I'm sorry.
There's
I see you are I see you as my Wilbur Pistons king, and I get that confused
I,
sometimes.
I got
But
you, brother.
Kool-Aid, my guy. When's the last time we've had a rookie lead a team to an NBA championship? Magic, Bird, but even then, that was back when teams who won the championship were awarded the number 1 overall pick, and the game was completely different back then.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what do we see with teams that win NBA championships over the last few years? The Warriors. Were they a young team this last year? How about the Raptors a couple years ago? Were they spring chickens? That Lakers bubble team. Were those guys out there the fountain of youth? The reality of it is, the guys that you see contending and winning, guys enter their prime when they're 27, 28 years old.
No,
Cade Cunningham
I need Ivy and Cade and Duren to be in a prime right now, bro. Skip that. I don't need them to learn nothing. They got to be out there right now busting off each of them for 20 a game. I need the double-double. Bro, I need Jaden Duren to be averaging the triple-double right now with blocks. Blocks, bro. That's what I need right now.
I need this team to have it all figured out on both sides of the court.
Bro, Jaden Ivey got to go out there 35 a night. I need Cade to go out there and hit every single three in mid-range. We do got to talk about something. Yo, shout out to RB the baller. Definitely thanks for the love. Killian needs to be traded. That is definitely an option. I'm not against anything that could better this team.
You don't rule out anything.
I will not rule out. But Cade's shot, is it just me or is it looking flatter, bro?
So this was a little bit of a thing last year as well. I don't know if it's flatter. I think this was what his shot looked like a little bit last year as well. I don't know if there is something with the point of the release. But I think in reality, to your point, I definitely wonder at times, like if there's something with the arc that needs to, more consistently go up. I'm not near at the point where like his shot's broken by any means, because it's not. Like, he's gonna be fine. I think those things are easily tweakable. So yeah. But when are we gonna have the hard stew convo? I mean,
they are. Sean, did I not get killed on this very platform for not? I didn't crush him, but I stated Duren, I see him as a future starter. I just don't see it with Stewart. And I got crushed. He was, oh, no, you going to? I said, guys, it's not like I'm against him.
right.
I believe that he could be a good sixth man for us, but I do believe he's going to play himself into enough money that it's just not worth it for the Pistons to sign him back as a starter. That's my own personal opinion. Well, but I stated I don't believe that the Pistons starting 5 or 4, like the other mate for Jalen Duren, I stated I don't believe that guy's on this roster as a starter. I'm not hating on Isaiah Stewart. This is just assessing the game as is. I don't believe, based on his measurables and the style of play, to me, he's almost like a defensive Corliss Williamson who would be better suited to come off the bench. Let him do what he does. I believe he would help off the bench more than moving one of the other guys to the bench, more than moving Bojan or Saddiq. I really do.
I think, I definitely think, with Beef Stew, and listen, I'm not gonna write anything yet, but to answer your question, I mean, the conversation already started with drafting Jalen Duren. That's when the conversation already began, right? Like the reality of it is, Detroit would love to make that Jalen Duren. No, for sure. Yeah. But it's like the reality of it is like, with Beef Stew, the conversation started with the draft pick with Jalen Duren coming in. Obviously, they would love to see that pairing work and see the front court be successful first. But to your point, Kool-Aid, if Beef Stew, for one, can't get consistent enough on that jump shot, but also if he can't continue to, improve and show his switchability on the defensive end and, show his ability to, play effective defense as a complementary big, But the reality of it is, when we're seeing him have to take that challenge against the starting five, like Kristaps Porzingis, there's times where like Stu's not playing bad defense. He's
Yeah,
just
it's
getting
not.
beat because it's just better offense. And quite
The
frankly,
measurables matter.
measurables matter, especially in the modern NBA. Like, as much as we love guys like Ben Wallace, the reality of it is in the modern NBA, there are some incredible offensive players that are doing things that just weren't being done when Ben Wallace was playing.
But you know what? Ben Wallace spoils us, man. We've been
Yeah.
spoiled with certain players to the point that we want those guys when we see that they have the same scrappiness and desire and heart.
Mhm.
And it might be short. Guys, Ben Wallace made the Hall of Fame in those 4 defensive player of the games because his stature had absolutely no decision, nothing to do with what his game was going to be. Whatever
Right.
Ben Wallace had inside of him, bro, was just something different. It didn't
Yep.
matter. Like you walked into the game, you knew, okay, he may be shorter than me by like 3-4 inches, but he can jump and stay in the air. I'm talking about you would see guys pump fake, and Ben Wallace is still getting the block on the way down. He was just something different. And I know we wanted some of these other guys to be this, but yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, he just put on the screen. Where's Wheezy? Ben Wallace his IQ was tremendous. He knew where to be on the court. He knew angles. He used to talk about the types of padding he would wear in his shoes because he knew the types of like how certain players would wear on his shoes, bro.
Mhm.
That's smart down to the science of it, man.
But also,
And
like,
ultimately
to that point, like,
strong,
but he was also like, not only was he strong, he had bounce too. He could get up and
man.
get and that's just, Isaiah Stewart's, he's a good player. He just doesn't have that type of bounce or athleticism. When you talk about some of like the slow footedness at times, like I definitely think,
Yeah.
like with Isaiah Stewart, some of it is like he just can't get up to contest a guy like, Kristaps Porzingis, and that's okay because not many guys can. However, the reality of it is, if you have a guy like Jalen Duren who keeps going, who keeps showing his consistency on the boards, if he keeps showing his ability to expand his offensive game and also just keeps showing that he can be, disciplined on the defensive end with his fouls. I mean, there's just, we're going to talk about the reality, especially if we keep seeing the sample size.
What?
Why do you think they were keeping guys under 100 points?
Say nothing. I know our audience better than this, bro. Shout out Cake Batter. He wanted to get on the screen. I gotta believe that, bro.
I just like, did he even read that before he typed it? What the? Like, you mean like when he was the reason they were keeping teams under
It's like my
100?
head was like, bro, like the loop was closed for me. I'm like, what happened here? I gotta believe somebody just wanted to be able to get on the screen, bro.
Yeah, 100%. They, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why that guy's cake batter. The reason why, I mean, when we're reading that, the guy sounds baked. But man, I just, in all seriousness, I feel like this is one of those nights where, like, to be honest with you, cool. I'm a little surprised by some of the reactions. I get it. It's like a 3-loss, like 3-loss streak. But like, this wasn't a game to me where I watched and was like, oh, there goes the season. Like, this was one where it was like, you know, some shots weren't falling. They weren't making a ton of mistakes as far as like with the basketball as much as they have been. Definitely not the greatest night on defense, but yeah, cake by tripping hard.
He's doubling down,
Hard.
dog. He is doubling down in the comments. I can't do it, dog. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's okay. We can just focus and move on other things. I mean, ultimately, you know, again, I think to wrap up where I'm at, Jaden Ivey looks great. Cade Cunningham looks stellar. Jalen Duren looks like he's going to be a pro's pro. A lot of things here look really good. They just got to piece some stuff together before they can start winning some more games. They just have to play more complete basketball.
And get
That's
the
what it is.
back, get more balanced roster. And RB the baller, Ivy and Cade, they switch. They hand off. You'll see
Mhm.
Ivy run the point a lot. You'll see him bring the ball down. The problem is this. When you have to depend on Ivy to be a playmaker is where I see him get into trouble. When Ivy is the off ball guy is where we say, oh, he can play make, because it's not going to be something that is dependent on. Cade Cunningham is averaging 7-8 assists coming into this game to like I think Ivy's 3 or 4, and there's a reason. Cade Cunningham, just like in college, just like we all knew, trust me, guys, that man he's a playmaker supreme. He really is. I believe he is highly underrated with his playmaking, and it's because of the methodical style he plays with, and the fact that, like y'all said in the comments, we got a team full of shooters that can't shoot, bro. He's passing the ball to people wide open, and it's just knock, 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 knock. And I don't. I'm gonna save these comments. No, I'm gonna save those comments. I can't put that out there right now. I can't. But yeah, Cade, for whatever reason, and this has also hurt Killian just to a small degree. People are not making shots off of their passes, but with Ivy, you see him get into some trouble when it becomes something where the ball's in his hands 4, 5, 6 plays in a row, where sometimes people are saying already, oh, his head's not up, oh, he missed a player, or he this, he that. He'll learn, he'll get there, but he's not there quite yet with the playmaking. Cade is still our best playmaker. That is not Killian's title. That's definitely not Killian's title. That's not Ivy's title. Cade is the best playmaker, man. He might not be a great one, but he is the best playmaker on this team currently.
Sean wants it to be sunshine. What I'm saying is prepare for the clouds. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is buckle up.
Yeah, I get this one too. I've been stating that too. I think I don't know what it is. I've noticed this lately. Ivy has just gone now. He's focused more on being a blur. It feels like somebody got in his head. I remember we were talking about it. It felt like he was getting to the rim and just looking to pass. Now we see him actually getting in there and getting fouled, getting in there and getting the layups to go. I heard the commentator several times say, yo, how is he getting this shot to go? I wish he did it a couple more times. I really do. But yeah, the dunking aspect of it, that's a part of it. I'm hoping we see him get into that paint to be able to catch some bodies. That's the aspect of it that I believe. Everything else up to that point reminds me of Dwayne Wade about Jaden Ivey sometimes. Like we saw him just absolutely run past somebody on the wing for that crazy reverse layup. Dwayne Wade would have dunked on somebody though. So, 2 points is 2 points. So I don't take that away from, Ivy or anything of that nature. But I do see where if he had that, yeah. But he's been making some strides, man. I think he's been really, really good with just getting to the basket, getting into that paint and realizing people can't stay with him. I think he's just a better combo guard than he is a point guard. If he can get anywhere he wants to go, I think Cade is the one who you want handling the rock. And so people are saying, "Oh, we want Cade to be more aggressive." Well, Cade is throwing the ball to he's throwing the rock to Ivy in the first quarter.
Right.
That's kind of what's happening there. So
right.
That's astute. I was wondering if anybody else was looking at it, seeing it that way from Ivy. I believe he's getting, like I said, more straight line to the rim. He's starting to finish a little bit better, but hopefully he can start catching some bodies, man. He got the athleticism.
Yeah. Hey, Kool-Aid, you see all those excuses that we were making, though? A lot of those excuses that, people came back at us with that we were making. Good times.
Look, I think when people start to understand the context, brother, when they start to understand the context that we don't see this team as a playing team and we don't see this team as a finished product, we're trying to more or less talk about where this team needs to get. If you want to talk about what players I don't personally see here long term, I want to just wait a little bit longer because just depending on how these guys pan out or if they don't, that's going to tell a lot. Killian Hayes looked better after Marvin Bagley got here last year. They don't have a true pick and roll center right now. Stu is not setting the best centers right, the best picks. And Duren on his pick and rolls, he doesn't quite have the technique down on sealing guys out of that paint. So he'll pick, and it's a hard A pick, man. It's like you see guys get like, whoa, who just hit me? But then you see him just kind of like take 2 steps towards the rim and put his hand up and stop and then go. Like, bro, you got to just go. Set that pick, roll and go. He has to seal better. There's a couple times where you see guys just walk right around him on the pick and rolls or get right in them, right up underneath him. When he learns to pick and roll similar to the way Andre Drummond and how Marvin Bagley can do, which is something the coach staff got to get on ASAP, bro. He's too athletic and too fast. That has to be it. We can't be sitting here saying, when is Marvin Bagley coming back for just a pick and roll lob threat? You know what I'm saying? They told us Sean Kemp. So that's something I'm hoping can get worked out and worked into Jalen Duren's game, and hopefully yield better results for the Pistons team, because right now they look like a team that can't really run the pick and roll. Like, what have you seen from their pick and roll offense, bro?
Right.
Their bigs are shooting threes.
Right.
Duren is getting his points off of putbacks. Their pick and roll offense is like non-existent. Yeah, that's the aspect of it that I'm hoping people understand. When Marvin Bagley gets back and when we get Alec Burks back, another shooter, I believe that the pick and roll game, you're going to see it go up a lot more. Right now, the way they use pick and rolls, Jalen Duren will be the guy that sets the screen for Cade or an Ivy or a ball handler, and then they're getting they're setting it towards the shooter side. So they'll set that screen towards Saddiq Bey's side or towards Bojan Bogdanovic's side, so that then Cade, that defender, will help up on the weak side and is hopefully leaving Saddiq or Bojan open. That's how they're doing it, because right now, Duren and some of these guys are not doing the best job at sealing. Otherwise, I believe you would see Lob City right now. Like, why isn't Duren able? Why aren't we seeing what we saw out of Andre Drummond and Marvin Bagley in the pick and roll game for the Pistons with, I believe, lesser playmaking talent? Why aren't we seeing that with Jalen Duren?
I also just think with him as well, like, I think, like, a lot of the focus with him right now, for lack of better terms, is just, being as good as he can be on the defensive end and on the glass, right? Like, I think, with, a lot of times with that pick and roll game, specifically, it's like, I do want to see him more active in that sense. I definitely want to see more drawn up for him on that end, but it just seems to me like a lot of the focus has just been, on him doing everything else on the court first. Like, I think, like with Stewart, it's always tough with him because, he can set, you can have him set as many picks as you want. You can have him roll to the basket as many times as you want. As much as we love, as much as we love Stu for other things he can do in his game, he's just not a rim roller. He's not. He can't get above the rim, right? Like that. At that point, that's just not gonna work. And it's not that Duren doesn't have the athleticism. It's just, again, how do you, like, how do you work him to get to the, to get into that spot consistently, right? So, I think all in all, I think in a lot of ways, I think, if they can get simpler looks at the basket like that, that will help them on defense too. And in the fact that they'll be able to just get back more, be set up on defense and be in the half court and not get beat in transition. Because I think that's a lot of it too. Is just, a lot of times when Detroit's getting beat, it's when they're not being set up in transition, when they're not entirely getting back. And like, that's when you're going to really put yourselves in situations where you're getting hurt. Right.
Yep. And you know what? One of the more underlying stories of this year is this. I see people taking shots at Troy Weaver and Coach Casey as relates to the talent and things of this team. I don't think that there's another GM outside of OKC who would have come in here and got us this many draft picks this quick. I mean, the Pistons have how many first-round draft picks on their team in only 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They
have 5 first-round picks, and then they had Isaiah Livers, who they got in the second round last year too.
No, they have 6 first-round picks: Killian, Saddiq, Isaiah Stewart, Cade, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey.
Oh yeah.
6. Look, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I wasn't counting. Yeah, I wasn't counting the one last year. Duh.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, Troy he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he's taking his notes. He said, "I'm not letting y'all speed me up or slow me down. I'm doing what I do, and that's what I love about Troy Weaver. And with Casey, you guys have to understand, isn't this the first year that Beef Stew has had competition?
Mm-hmm.
But up until this point, we were saying, "Oh, he's the unquestioned starting 5 of the future." 1 year, Troy Weaver said, people are already saying, "Hey, maybe Cade's the better player than maybe Ivy's a better player than Cade. Maybe he should run point." Who got these players that you think are better than the players that we thought were better before? That's Troy Weaver. And what's Coach Casey doing? He's putting Duren out there to prove that as they continue to influx more talent and more talent and more talent. Because did drafting Killian Hayes stop Troy Weaver from drafting Cade Cunningham? Did drafting Cade Cunningham stop Troy Weaver from drafting Jaden Ivey?
Nope.
Not one freaking bit, bro.
And guess what?
Look at
If
the
they were in the
bigs.
position and if they were in the position to go get Scoot Henderson next year, drafting Jaden Ivey wouldn't stop him from doing that either.
It wouldn't. And then look at the bigs. We all said he said Stu is part of the core four. And now all of a sudden they drafted who they call baby Sean Kemp and Jalen Duren. So it's like, look, Troy Weaver's going to continue to stack talent. He's going to continue to go out there and get draft picks. Yeah, that's what he's going to do every single year. He has a better trade chip this year, I believe, in Bojan Bogdanovic than he did in Jeremy Grant. You know, I believe he can actually get the draft pick that he wants at this deadline versus having to wait for the draft to try and figure things out, because Bojan is a piece that any contender needs this year.
But on the flip side, let us remember that tomorrow's game 5.
It's game 5, bro. It's not game 50.
And listen, I don't.
Game 50.
What's that?
It's not game 50.
No, it's not. And I'll be honest with you. I like Bojan a little too much I'm a little too biased on the Bojan train to talk about him getting traded at the deadline.
I hope we bring him back.
I think, to be honest, I think we're bringing him back. I don't think we're going to be trading him, but that's a whole other like, I don't think we're going to actively try to get worse this offseason or like in the middle of this season by trading him. You know what I mean? I just don't think we're going to. However, I think the big thing is overall, I don't think this is a game that's worth having, much stress over. It was a rough loss. It was 1 of 82. It's on to the next one. I think, I think in Indiana, there were times where the Pistons could have won that game, should have won that game.
That was a disappointing loss.
Yeah, it was a disappointing loss. But if we close that one out, we'd be 2-2 right now, right? So
having beaten the teams we were supposed to beat. The Indiana loss is the reason why I believe this loss hurts a little bit more for some fans.
For sure.
If they hit that one and they're coming into this one 2-1, and they just so happen to lose on the road to Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, and these guys who have been putting up decent stats all year, you probably say, okay. But you're right, man. That's a good point.
And someone asked, so you signed Bojan to an extension and not Jeremy Grant? Absolutely. The reason why, first of all, their price ranges are going to be different. Bojan Bogdanovic is in his early to mid 30s. You're not going to be signing him to as near long of an extension. You're not going to be signing him for nearly as much money. He's probably going to be signed for like a 3-year $36 million deal. Is probably what an extension with Bojan looks like. An extension with Jeremy Grant looks like 4-year 90 something at least. That's a completely different conversation than signing Bojan Bogdanovic to a mid-level extension or some form of deal like that. Completely different. But overall, again, I still think that even with all this talk about like where areas where we're worse, I still think this team's more talented.
Oh goodness. I keep saying I get you, multi money through and through. Listen, we see it. But what are they going to do to make the adjustments? Like, what can they do right now? Sometimes you just don't have enough talent. So the adjustment is not going to be made on a game-by-game basis. That's what a lot of us have to understand. The changes that you want to see made on the court on game-by-game basis, they're not going to come until Troy Weaver starts to do what he does. Some of those might not come until next offseason. Y'all got to get that. So, yes, there are changes that got to go. And some changes that got to be made. But even if you change up a scheme, what players are running them?
Right.
I mean, they're still facing some pretty big injuries. Uh-oh.
Well, and at a certain point. Well, at a certain point, too.
What up, Adam?
Adam, our guy. He came in. Killian Hayes is ... In reality, it's like, at a certain point, it's like, yeah, you can. It's like, yes, you can stagger minutes with starters to help scoring with the bench. That's not going to alleviate all of your issues on the defensive end. You can spread out, your opportunities between other guys, but at the end of the day, I don't know what lineup you're or what like starter you're going to be staggering that's going to change the problems this team's having throughout the game, right? Like, I don't think that's going to alleviate all of their issues on the defensive end. I don't think that's going to alleviate all of their issues even on the offensive end, right? Like, honestly, a lot of times the guys who came in and kept us in this game were some of those players they brought off the bench even tonight. Corey Joseph kept us in this game. Kevin Knox made a couple plays and kept us in this game. The reality is sometimes keeping in your starters isn't always the solution. Sometimes an adjustment is bringing other guys in and letting them go out and see if they can do something different than your starters, especially when we're coming off of a night where a lot of our starters didn't necessarily play the greatest, right? Like that's just the reality. So
yeah, I see Adam in the comments, boy. He doing that good work. I guess there's a couple people in there trying to go at Cade, man. Like y'all got to stop with this stuff. People are saying, why does Cade look so different? Maybe because he's averaging more points than he did last year. I don't know. Like y'all gotta, y'all gotta chill on that. Let this go. If this is Cade's slow start to the year, it's better than his year last year. Just let it play out, guys. Let it play out. Cade, when he struggles, guess what? He doesn't look like a rookie. When Jaden, we're all saying, oh, Jaden looks like this and Jaden looks like that. Guys, Jaden had just as much opportunity tonight as Cade Cunningham. But there's a difference in how those two players looked at the end of the game. There's just a difference here. Mm-hmm. Cade is a bona fide baller, guys. He already got that.
And y'all relax on him. And he even showed tonight, like in the third quarter when he got going, he showed he can get going literally whenever he wants to. Like that's just his game.
I've been saying that since last year. He's a guy who, as soon as that third quarter hits, really like not even the beginning of the third quarter, man. By about that 8-minute mark, Cade Cunningham starts to really get busy. And that's why I said if he can do this from the beginning of the game, then maybe that's necessary because Ivy's game is the type where he can get busy whenever, man. Like he's just running. He's running fast. So it's like, hey, why don't you pick your spots early so you don't have to take less efficient shots later in the game if the team is down. And I get that. People want to see Cade be that guy. But I remember, they want to see him be that guy scoring wise, but you have to know Cade's game. He can score a lot of points. Right. But the way he gets there is much differently than just going out there and looking for his. It just is.
Well, and also, again, we've talked about his game being the ability to go out and do more than just scoring. We've talked about how, like honestly, when we've talked about that lack of a defensive anchor, who has been our closest thing to a defensive anchor? Cade. Who's been the one taking that responsibility of communication on both ends of the court?
It's been pretty deep, bro. It's been better than I expected to start. I've liked the way he's played. And I wish there's a couple turnovers there here and there that I wish Cade would get right. And I just, I don't know what that is from, but defensively, man, he's looking a lot better than I thought. Like I didn't have him moving into a position of really looking like our best perimeter guard on defense, man.
Well, yeah, and like it's even like his ability. Like, I've been really impressed. Like when we're talking about like the switching. Like I actually feel like there's been a lot of times where like they've done really well with switching, and I feel like in particular when they have, it's when Cade is proactive with his communication, and it's when he's taken the lead on it. He's actually done a really good job of preventing opportunities, on the perimeter, and he actually's done a good job of leading guys like Duren as well. I feel like overall, like, Cade has taken some taken some steps vocally on the defensive end this year as well with that. And I think overall, I think, if you're going to talk about Cade, like setting people up, well, like his entire game is setting people up. So saying that he's not setting people up is just simply not true. He was literally number one in assists. He was number one in his class last year, and it wasn't even close in potential assists. He was number 2 in overall assists because shots just weren't going down. The reality of it is Cade and Ivy giving guys a ton of chances. That's what I'm talking about. And you can give guys opportunities to shoot from beyond the arc. If they're not going down, what's it going to do for you? Right? Like at the end of the day, like, it's like you can give Killian as many shots as you want. You're shooting if you're shooting 11% from the field to start the year.
Bro, Apollo kind of just summed it up. We've been saying it long form. Apollo just summed it up. Look, Marvin Bagley got to be in there, and we need Alec Burks back. You get Alex and Bojan into the same lineup with Jay and Ivy, You get two shooters on opposite wings, that's way better than our shooters being, well, we got Bojan, who's shooting the three on the other side. Oh, beef stew? That's not going to work.
Well, and Cade,
That's
and the
not
reason why
going to
Cade,
work, bro. We
well, and
need
the
Alec
reason why
Burks.
Cade needs the lob threat is because he needs the threat of being able to have scoring at all three levels of the court. He needs the ability, like, because
Yes,
when
that's what made him
teams,
so effective.
because when teams can zone in on, you know, on his dish outs to open shooters, because you need shooters with Cade as well. You need shooters and a pick and roll threat, because if you can go to the rim, make opportunities above the rim, they have to respect what you're doing at the rim. They have to collapse at the rim. They have to allow your shooters to get more open, and therefore give Cade more options on the offensive end as a playmaker and as a scorer. It does a lot of things for him in opening up his overall game. So I think we talk about, you know, like, you know, those things that are being missed. You know, I think at the end of the day, those are going to be the things that are going to open up Cade's assist numbers, his scoring numbers, the offense as a whole. Like,
keep going, bro. We'll close on this one when you're done. We'll close on that.
But overall, like, you know, again, there's still like the thing with this team. There's not a lack of opportunities. It's just you got to execute them, and you know, and you're seeing your veterans consistently executing. Like Bojan, he's executing. Other guys like Killian, Isaiah Livers, even tonight wasn't shooting the greatest either. Saddiq, he needs to be more consistent. Like, you just need more consistently from the guys around your supporting cast, or you need your supporting cast to show up for your stars, right? It's just that at the end of the day, you know, again, you can lead the horse to water, you can't get him to drink.
Yeah, am I the only one who feels like every time I see Kojo, I just think Krillin?
Every time I see Kojo, I'm just like, he's like the guy at the YMCA you don't want to guard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dog. He's gonna go so hard. When I saw the comment, I chuckled because it was like, yo, he does. He's like, dude. I'm like, bro, like he could break someone's foot, man.
Dude, like, even when like he dove, like I remember he dove for a loose ball in the third quarter, like he threw his body into it,
like,
bro.
Like, dog.
Like he didn't just like do like a little like wimpy dive. Like it was like he was doing like a somersault on the ground on his back. I was like, man.
Yep. Yeah. And I this is it here. This is it here, man.
When you're so good.
I don't know if it's a selfish thing for me or for fans, but we all know what Cade's ability is. You know
what it is?
He's doing what he's supposed to do, but I would selfishly like to see him go out there and just bing, 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 6 points, 3 assists.
You know what it is? You know what I think it is, Kool-Aid? I think a lot of times when you're a playmaker like Cade, you're thinking about wanting to make the best basketball play. But you got to realize when you're as good as you are, when you're as good as you are, you almost you got to realize that whatever you're going to do is more than likely the right basketball play or the best basketball play when you're that good, right?
Yeah.
Free Kojo back to Canada. Narujan, is that really what you look like? Holy shit. Anyway. Oh my gosh.
But hey, you know what? I think that he usually doesn't get the chat to agree with him. He may get them to agree. But no, I like Kojo, man.
Yeah, I do too.
He's
a competitor.
Well, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. I wish we didn't have to depend on him to be a playmaker. He going out there in lineups with Killian Hayes, and he has to be the playmaker.
Right.
Or the scorer. That just tells you all that you need to know about that situation. Kojo, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. The person I want to see more of, we keep saying we're struggling with shooting. Where is Rodney Magruder? I'm not saying he's gonna be some world beater, but why doesn't he play at all? You know what I'm saying? Like that's one interesting one for me. I'm like, I feel like Hami, when we see Hami, he just don't got it. Why not go with Magruder just to see if he can hit at least a 3 or 2? Just
like,
something.
What do you want me to say, man?
The end of the that's probably like the one lineup thing that I can state right now, none of the other things that people have stated, I can't see them really working until we get more balanced lineup with those bigs back. But with no shooter, I have like, I don't know. That's about the only one, and I feel like is grasping at straws. But we at least know the boy can shoot, man. Like give him 10 minutes. Boy, Rodney Mack will be out there. He'll at least get what, 1 or 2 threes a game, you think? Because think about it, Sean. That's how, if we want to actually get down to actually saying what they could do right now, the reason why I did this is to show people we don't have anything to make any adjustments with right now.
Exactly. I listen, if we're talking about if Rodney Magruder needs to be playing more minutes, that's a sign, if anything, that we need to close the stream, because that just means we're really grasping for stuff to talk about.
Yeah, but this is the reason why. That's the reason why I say Rodney, is because I keep seeing a bunch of guys shoot threes, and every time I'm like, that's not the guy we want shooting that three. But I never state that with Rodney. I'm like, look, if this is going to be your game plan, then put the guys in that can at least shoot them. If you're going to play this style, if you're not playing fast and athletic, except for through Ivy, then put Rodney in over Hami. I'm just being for real. I don't know what Hami is going to give me over Rodney.
But you can't on the same. All right, but Kool-Aid. This is why, because you can't in the same breath complain about what they're doing on the offensive end, and then say on the same breath that we need to go out and have Rodney Magruder out there. We're already struggling with length, struggling with guards. You can't guard the perimeter. Rodney Magruder struggles on the defensive end. At that point, he's going to make us worse. That's why he's not on the court. As good as like Hami, his ceiling of what he can bring us is his overall abilities. If he has the opportunity to actually show us that he could be more of that guy that we saw at the second half of last year, then Hamidou needs to be on the court. But if he's not going to show us, then at a certain point we're going to have to make a move, right? But I think at the end of the day,
I know that move. I know what that move is, and the comments is letting us know. They're letting us know, bro.
Let me in, baby. I'll go hard on the defensive end. I'll go hard.
Let's go, bro. I do. Oh my gosh,
man! Y'all think I never touched a basketball in my life? I'm offended. I'm like, man, come on now. I played basketball growing up. I played basketball growing up. Come on now, man. I was just better at talking about it. But
hey, look, man, this has been fun. We said pre going live, we were like, all right, we'll be on for 15, 30 minutes. It's been fun. I looked up, I was like, 156.
Yeah, sometimes you'll just get in a zone, Kool-Aid, where it's like, all right, we'll touch on these couple things and we'll get going. But then another thing, and it's like, man,
let's rock. Let's rock, brother. You still getting love, bro. Dog, look, not only do we need to get Sean to Detroit, that fund is still going on, but we need to get Sean on the Pistons, y'all. That's what we need to do.
Man, if anything, I feel like I have a better shot playing against the Pistons 2K team than I do against the Pistons athletic. Like, if we're being honest here, Kojo or Sean, who wins?
Bro,
put that in the polls.
Do it on 2K, please. Please.
I'm just gonna create myself as a 99 overall, 7'6" center.
Man, you know what? The people are right, dog. Suyu is 100% right. We have not. Where is it at? Sean, we're gonna have to bring out Cade Crusader. I might have to go with this mask though, bro. I might have to go with this one. Got the upgrade.
Ooh.
I don't think it's gonna work as much, dog. I don't think it's going to. We're gonna have to bring it out, bro.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Batman.
We got it. I forget, bro. Yeah, we got to bring that back, man. We do.
Oh yeah.
And they got to see Sean. They got to see his nemesis, brother. I don't think they're ready for that. Yeah, we're gonna be here tomorrow. We're gonna be here tomorrow. We are. We'll be
live after the game again. Absolutely. Yep. Throwing it down.
We might check in from the arena too. Sean is one of the best hosts in all of this thing. I can't wait till we get him here in the flesh. But like I said, y'all gonna see me rocking out with Sean all season. Um, Knowledge. He brings a lot to the conversation. Some things that I just don't even have on the brain. So definitely, man. But hey, we appreciate you guys. Sean, you want to give the last words?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, thank you all so much for staying with us and talking after this game. We almost went as long as the game itself, man. Holy cow. This time flies when you're having fun, man. But we just appreciate
Because
you
we
all
not
joining.
soft, bro. We not soft. We go hard.
No, we ain't
Defense,
soft.
offense all day. Even the comments, bro. I
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah, you're not going to get a more comprehensive breakdown of the Pistons, of Detroit basketball, of the NBA than from us. So you're going to want to be sure that you're subscribing to What We're Pistons for all of the conversations throughout the season, throughout the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, the trials, the tribulations, the restorations, and the recalibrations. We will be there for it all. But in the meantime, be sure that you're subscribing to What We're Pistons. Following my guy, the Godfather at Kool-Aid. My guy, Detroit Kool-Aid, Brandon Dent, the Woodward Sports, Woodward Pistons beat writer extraordinaire. And if you're feeling oh so charitable, you should be sure you go follow your boy as well at Sean F. But also be sure you go subscribe to the podcast and check it out because tomorrow morning we have a special guest on. We have our guy for the third time, Cone, aka at 3 Cone, on the podcast. He is the social media manager for Enjoy Basketball and also a really great content creator. So be sure you go check him out. He will be on the pod tomorrow morning. So be sure you go listen to it. It's going to be really good. But with that, folks, thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate you all a ton. We will catch you guys tomorrow night here at What We're Pistons. Be sure you're subscribed.
Sean, he is my defensive anchor of What We're Pistons. Let's go, bro. My anger translator.
You know it, man.
Look. One last thing, Cade Crusader, some of his nemesis, thanks to Sean over here. Oh, it's on the way. Look, y'all gonna have to tune in to From Half Court. We are bringing that stuff back, but it's gonna be on our what I'm saying from Fast Break, the Fast Breaks. That's what it is. Y'all gotta tune in to the Fast Breaks. Sean and I are coming back with the content, but we're gonna do it on that platform. We definitely want you guys to be able to tune in again. It was wildly successful. I'm gonna start retweeting and clipping from some of our earlier ones, but definitely you guys want to tune into that Fast Break. It's gonna be us, probably a little less in our analytical, role, more in our let's have some fun type of role. So it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man.
We gonna keep the content coming, man.
Yep, definitely will. Yo, bro, this was fun.
Absolutely, man. Always a blast.
Yeah, hit that like button. Subscribe. We will be here tomorrow. We definitely will be. Hopefully it's a win. I'm hoping, bro. Listen, I got a crazy graphic right now. I'm hoping that Killian is looking at these two games against the Hawks and he's just absolutely like that LeBron meme where he's just like
read the last comment. Read the last comment from Suyu.
All right, let me put some of these ones up. Where's Su? Dog. We do. Look, y'all, I got my mask. I think I packed it, bro.
Listen.
I'm bringing it to the next game. Oh, there you go.
Pega Joe, listen, if I'm not covering the team, if I'm not covering the team, this is my secondary goal. What Pega Jones just said. If I'm not covering the team, being there, giving the analysis, I want to be like Drake or like Spike Lee, our Spike Lee at courtside. Like, come on, baby, that's gotta be me.
Yeah, let's do in a koozie sweater. Hey, bro, you got the buffs too, right? The Wilbur Pistons buffs.
Oh heck yeah, baby, we're buffed up over here.
Let's do it, bro. Let's do it. We got to do this. We got to get you there for a game soon, man. Soon. We're going to do it. All right, y'all, man. Hey, Sean, they love you, man.
Love y'all too, man, for real. Appreciate y'all a ton. Wouldn't be here without y'all. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night More basketball conversation coming. Holy crap, we're over 2 hours. We're going off.
Let's rock, boy. Until Kane, he said he bumped up. Wait, man. Hold on. Just one time for the people. Let's get it. Let's get. You know what? One time for the people. Boy, the K Crusader is back. Content is on the way. Let's rock. Let's rock.